All right, we are at 7 p.m. and we will give our attendees a little more time to join. Right, Padma?
Sure. And can you hear me clearly?
I can.
That's wonderful.
Yep, the attendees are starting to come in. I recognize one name, Pramoda. Hi, Pramoda. You can type it in chat. Welcome to the webinar. Just to share some logistics of the webinar is that by default, everyone's camera and mic is on mute and cameras are off. This is just a way for us to make sure that the speaker has undivided attention on us. In the past, one time we actually got bombed, a Zoom bombed. So that's one of the reasons we now do the webinar mode. However, we will do our best to keep this as interactive as possible. I'm sure Padma has some tricks up her sleeve. She's always a very social person. So we all look forward to this evening.
All right. Is that a cue that I should start speaking?
No. I will introduce you formally. I just
Wonderful.
want people to
Okay.
know that, by default, if they're wondering why they can't
Yes.
unmute or why they can't come on camera, I just wanted to give them that heads up.
Hi, Sheila. Hi, Pramoda. Good to see you. Hello, Jillian. Shelly.
Toby, what time do you think 7:05 is good enough? Oh, hey, did you see who it is?
Yes, I did. It's wonderful to see.
Anju, you're on mute.
How are you, Padma?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Meenakshi, hi. Toby, hi.
Hi, Vivek. How are you? You are over the moon, I see.
Over the moon? No, man.
Yeah, the background.
I'm where I am. How was your vacation, Toby?
Very, very good. Very good. Very good. I'm back to reality and bills.
Yeah, I know. It was very nice to meet you all that day.
Likewise.
So, Meenakshi, to answer your question, let's not go by a time box. Rather, if we see we have 10, 12 people, I think we should go ahead and get started so that we are respectful to the total time given to Padma. That would be my thought.
Okay.
We can see how it goes.
Sure.
So where's everybody joining from? I know Sheila, you're local. Pramoda, you're local. Where's everybody from? Jillian, where are you joining from?
Shelly from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hey, welcome, Cressy.
Mina from Orlando. Hi, Mina.
Oh, wow.
Catherine from Charlotte. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to the Northern Virginia area. All right, I shall start introducing our awesome guest tonight. We are so grateful she decided to come and contribute her valuable experience and learning to us. So this is Padma Putrevu today, speaking to us. She's an IC Agile expert coach, and her message to us today is how to embrace resistance to create incremental magic. She says that an effective change agent, by embracing resistance, is something that Scrum Masters are more likely to be successful in their efforts to get others to embrace change. So if we embrace their resistance, they will embrace our change, is what I'm understanding. And I look forward to hearing more from you. So over to Padma.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Meenakshi. And thank you everyone who spared some time out of your valuable, summer time and to be here. Schools are starting next week, so that's another change I am trying to embrace, although I am resisting it a little bit, but yes. So thank you everyone, for those of you who could make it. And, I'm hoping that I get to learn from the interaction this evening from all of you. And, Meenakshi has been kind enough to introduce me as an expert Agile coach, which, yes, I've earned the credential for it. However, there is what makes you realize, what that makes you realize is there is so much you don't know. So I am on my journey to understand how I react to change, how I embrace resistance, what has worked for me, what did not, what have I learned from it. And I'm hoping to share some of that with you this evening, and also learn from what you have to share. So that was the long way of saying that this is going to be very interactive. So please keep your fingers on your keyboards as much as you can this evening, so that you can interact via chat, and then so I would really appreciate that. Having said that, a big thank you to Loudon Agile Network for this opportunity to present. I have great passion for this topic, which is creating incremental magic. It's a mantra I live by. And, I also wanted to do a quick tech check. You're all able to see my screen, correct? If Meenakshi and Anju, if one of you could just confirm to me.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Wonderful. And I'm just going to change one slide and let me know if it transitioned well, please.
Yep, it did.
Awesome. And it's wonderful that you're having this event online. There are folks, I thought someone joined from Canada. If I read through the chats quickly,
yes,
but
Gillian is joining us from Canada.
Oh, wow.
That is wonderful. So yes, having events online, I think has opened up avenues for us to connect internationally. So I have welcomed this particular change. From since 2020, I think I've had a more online interaction, and I've made some very great relationships, not having met people in person, but just via Zoom. So that's a change I have welcomed into my new way of working. And I'm hoping all of you are doing safe, your families are keeping well, and you are enjoying the summer. As promised, I told you that this is going to be very interactive. So this is your first chance to type. Can you all let me know in the chat box, what roles do you play in your respective organizations, so that I understand my audience better? Agile coaching. Servant leader coach, love it. Enterprise Agile transformation lead, Agile professional, Agile business analyst, wants to be 100% Scrum Master, safe Scrum Master coach, clinical trial manager. Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for letting me know who my audience are, and I see that there is a wide range of roles here, and I am hoping to share something that you can take away and also learn something from all of you. So a little about me, and so yes, this is my background. I am a project manager turned a Scrum Master. My Agile journey started in 2009, and at that time my exposure was more in iterative software development, and then it transitioned to Scrum and Kanban training, and Scrum and working on Scrum and Kanban teams. I am an IC Agile expert coach. I got that credential, and then I have my MBA. I've specialized in training and development, and these are some of my other credentials. What I am passionate about are these two logos that you see here. I am a global spiral catalyst for Lean In Agile, movement for women by women, which is designed to amplify the voices of women, talents and experiences, to be able to raise the floor for women across the globe. And I have demonstrated incremental magic by building vibrant communities as an international spiral catalyst for Lean and Agile in the DC metro area, and also in New York, Australia, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and UK. I am also a volunteer and ex-board member for Asha for Women, an organization that helps women and children build an abuse-free future for themselves by providing culture-specific support. It's a 30-year-old organization, or 30 plus, and I have been associated with them for 18 out of those 30 years. So that's another organization which is very close to my heart. So that's a little about me. All right. So now to into the main presentation of today, which is how do you embrace resistance to create incremental magic, right? So nothing great was ever created without resistance. So why do we get resistance when we are trying to make it better for everybody? We need to realize that resistance is a fundamental human attribute, and change and resistance go hand in hand. I think for me, that's the starting point, and I'm hoping that you can relate to that too. And organizational change is one of the most researched issues in management and leadership. And while change is viewed as necessary with positive outcomes for all stakeholders, resistance is consequently seen as a surprising outcome, right? So I am trying to explore, as an effective change agent, how can you be an effective change agent by embracing resistance? What are the avenues you can create for yourself to embrace resistance so that you can make effective change? And when I say effective, it's change that lasts, change that sticks, change that results in improvements, right? Agile is all about an improvement mindset. It's like, have an agile mindset, be agile, don't just do agile, be agile. Agile is, you hear all of this, and that's central to agility. Have a improvement mindset, right? And in order to have an improvement mindset, you have to be able to be an effective change agent. And if you're a change agent, meeting resistance is like, it's like your everyday, it's a part of your everyday experience, right? And agility holds a mirror to us, to look at and adjust and make changes, and resistance is a part of that reality, right? So it is important to develop that muscle, for the lack of a better word, of getting creative with embracing resistance, right? How can you create that incremental magic for yourself, your teams, or change that can impact the world, right? Because you can see the history of liberty is a history of resistance. And I've seen a couple of coaches and Scrum Masters, or someone who wanted to be 100% Scrum Master, right? So this is the definition or the role of a Scrum Master as in the Scrum Guide, right? What does a Scrum Master do? The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand the Scrum theory and practice, and both within the team and the organization. It's accountable for the team's effectiveness. These are all good things, right? So this seems to make a lot of common sense. They're true leaders, they're servant leaders, they serve the team. So where do you see the resistance emerging when all of this is so good and it makes so much common sense? How does the Scrum Master serve? Okay, it's like, oh, you're a servant leader. Okay, what does a servant leader mean, right? They're coaching the team members in self-management and cross-functionality, attaining higher levels of cross-functionality, building T-shaped teams, helping teams create high-value product implements, help teams meet the definition of done, remove impediments, ensure that all the Scrum events take place. I'm focusing on Scrum Master, but look at it as a change agent also, right? I am an ex-Scrum Master and now a DevOps engineer, but I relate to the role of a Scrum Master a lot more because that's where I have that's the role I've played for the longest time, right? I'm a change agent nonetheless. So why if all of this is making so much sense, then why is there so much resistance? So for me, changing my mindset to see resistance as a sign of what I was doing is something right, it made all the difference to me. Because honestly, if everything is going smoothly, I'm making no impact, I'm being ignored, or how now that everybody is working remotely, and not always people turn on their videos and they're muted, so you hear the silence sometimes, right? So I'm like, okay, am I even being heard, right? So I know I'm on the correct path when I hear some resistance, right? Because you start making a difference when you start getting opposition. The only way you know that you're changing the status quo is when the defenders of the status quo start to fight back. That's when you know you're onto something, right? So does this look familiar to all of you? Toby, can I ask you to share any experience where you've had this picture come to reality?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it happens all the time, right? Everybody wants change, and everybody gives you ideas. Everybody gives you these grand schemes of what the to be looks like. They explain the as is, and then said, okay, that's great. I really want somebody to come lead it, and silence, crickets, right? So it happens more often than not. Yeah, absolutely.
Very true, and thank you. I can tell you that I see this most in retrospectives where everybody talks about what can be improved and how it needs to be improved, and then the moment you start putting owners to action items and due dates for them, like you want to realize this improvement by, or that is when you see, okay, who wants to own this, and then suddenly silence. Right? So I'm hoping others can relate to this experience. So for me, that's one of the frequent avenues where I see resistance, because they want the change, or the teams want the change. They want the change for themselves. They want it for them at an individual level, at a team level. It will make life good, better for everybody. But then there is resistance to even take the action to make that improvement, or to create that accountability to make the improvement.
Right.
So what causes resistance to change? And this is where I would again like my wonderful audience to participate in a quick survey. So I'm going to post that in the chat. And if you could all kindly are you all still able to see my screen?
Yep.
Wonderful. I'm going to copy this link and post it in the chat, and you should all be able to get to it very easily. You just have to click on the link, and you can also do it through your phone. So just click on the link, and I would like to hear your thoughts about what causes resistance to change. And I promised you that this was going to be interactive, so I am following through. Let me present this so it's a better view. No guarantees. Wow, that's fear. I see fear coming up a lot. I can also relate to it at a personal level. Possibility of failing. Not willing to change, fear. Identity threat. Very true. How very profound. Potential for jobs to be eliminated. Used to current ways of working. Yes, we are all creatures of habit. Fear of the unknown. Very true. Keep this coming. I will share this output with the LAN team. If anybody is interested in having this output, this is created by all of you, so I am willing to give this back to the audience who created this input. So thank you. Previous experience not worked. So yes, these are all some very common reasons to to experience resistance to change. So going back to my presentation. One more mentee. If you thought you were done, you are not. What did you wish for when faced with resistance? I am also going to post that link in the chat. If you can all please, my wonderful audience. There you go. I hope you were all able to click on the link. When I mentioned that I also want to learn from your experiences, this is what I was alluding to. That, what did you wish for? What was your truth? And what do I not know here? Direction, it would go away. Collaboration, yes. Understanding. Support and capable leadership. Oh, let me present this as a better view here. Supportive and capable leadership along with confidence and teamwork. Include me in the decision making. Thank you. People to calm down, stop panicking. For me, I would also say transparency. Executive and leadership buy-in. I wish we were all on the same page. Yes, I would call that, in my own words, transparency. A miracle to happen, to change everyone's mind. Yes. All right. I will again share this with the LAN team if anybody wants an output of this mentee. And thank you. I appreciate the input. All right, and I'm hoping that you can all still see my screen. Wonderful. All right, so now that you all have shared what causes resistance to change, and then what did you wish for when faced with resistance, I would like to ask you, and maybe Meenakshi, I can if I could ask you, and then I can ask Toby, why embrace resistance?
So I have a friend here in the audience called Pramoda. She will identify with this when I say this. Some philosophers, right, say that whatever you resist will persist.
Mm-hmm.
For example, even in nature, right, you see there's a boulder and the stream will find its way around it, right? And
Very
eventually
true.
it will crumble down, right? So the boulder stood there, right? But eventually what happened? It crumbled. So in life, certain things are going to happen to us. And if we resist, we just bring a lot of kind of worry and pain. But if you accept that this is the now, you can then think creatively of overcoming whatever challenges we had because of the challenges that we were resisting. So I guess I'm speaking from a different point of view.
But it is a point of view, and resistance can be at a personal level and at work, right? While some of this presentation is geared towards how you can embrace resistance at work, it's also a personal reality for us when it comes to many situations. So I fully welcome the comments you had to make. And Toby, did you want to share anything as to
Sure.
why?
Yeah, absolutely. So my thought here is that the only constant is change, right? And if you resist change instead of embracing change, you will be stuck behind. I mean, a prime example that happened in our lives is Kodak, right? I mean, I remember going to Disney World and going to everywhere and taking extra film to make sure that is to capture our memories, and the stocks were at the highest. Guess what? People told them there's going to be this thing called digital cameras, and they're like, yeah, humbug. None of that is going to happen. So they resisted change. Another company called Fujifilm that also made film, right? The name says Fujifilm. They, although it was originally just a film company, they embraced change and they came up with cameras. They came up with instant cameras. They did all kinds of stuff. Obviously, they're not as good as they did when they were selling film, but they at least embrace change and move forward. Right? So there are so many stories in front of us, right? Blockbusters, or even take grocery stores for that matter, right? If grocery stores don't acknowledge the demographic change that is happening in that area and still carry the same stuff they carried, 15 years ago, where the kind of people, the different socioeconomic differences or regional or people from different countries now have moved into that area. If you don't cater to them, they're going to go out of business. So yes, so embrace change, because change will always be there. And if you don't change, you will be stuck behind. So the choice is yours. You want to be stuck behind, or you want to move forward.
Thank you. That was very profound, and thank you for those wonderful insights. Okay, my technology suddenly decided to. Okay, so why embrace resistance, right? resistance tests the commitment of those who are initiating the change, right? And at times, okay, I just need to move this. Yeah. It's like, if you are going to back off at the first sign of resistance, then how much are you really committed to the change? So so it's important to embrace that resistance so that you demonstrate the commitment to making that change, or you demonstrate that commitment to move forward with taking people on that journey to that change, right? It can be based on valid viewpoints, right? Sometimes there is truth. There is grains of truth in that resistance that needs to be heard and understood and taken into account, right? If your change is to succeed. So there is always a value in the resistor's perspective. It can help weed out bad ideas, if certain ideas are not thoroughly vetted, or that might be or those are impulsive reactions to certain events, then or it's like if the grand ideas but not well thought out, then it can help weed out these bad ideas. It can sometimes help slow down the pace of change, so that it also gives people time to adjust to post-change reality, right? For example, if you have to make a change, and then you have to put in, and you may have to slow down the pace because you have to probably put in some infrastructure in place, right? You may have to do some systems need to be procured in order to support the post-change reality. So sometimes that resistance creates that buffer of time in order to buy the time to adjust to post-change reality. It provides an outlet for people's emotion and energy. At least what I have experienced is that when people feel heard, they are more welcome to change, right? And at times, change can create it basically shakes people's emotions and energy. And so if that is not managed well, it can turn into a undue buildup of pressure, and sometimes it can impact relationships. So that's the reason, if you see if you see resistance, read the reasons for the resistance, and then manage the change, manage the steps to the change, right? So how have you reacted to change? Typically, we see that I think our first reaction, or at times my first reaction is like, okay, I don't have the time for this. But you know what? Pausing and making that change, making the time to react to that change, look or read that resistance can actually help you. It might actually be good for you. So first, come to the realization that resistance is going to be a part of your ecosystem. It can be small, it can be big, it can come in many different flavors, but it is a part of your ecosystem, right? So once you recognize that, then you can start managing the resistance. You can make it your friend. You can work around the resistance or work with the resistance. So where do you start? Now that I've spoke all about that, so where do you start, right? So typically we've been taught that resistance is a form of conflict. It interrupts progress. So the question comes, how do I work with resistance? How do I deal with it? How do I make it go away? But instead of talking about avoidance, talk about embracing the resistance, right? For me, especially in my experience, when you resist resistance, you do not embrace resistance, you can actually thwart innovation within your teams. So that's something that I have personally experienced. So it's important to embrace the resistance. It can keep you and your teams from attaining higher levels of agility and maturity. So look at how you can embrace the resistance. So how do you embrace it? Start with you. Pause and prepare. And how do you pause and prepare, right? For me, I first look at, okay, what's my reaction to resistance? What assumptions am I making, right? Am I experiencing my flight or my fight mode kick in? What is my, again, time permitting, I even write down the assumptions, and then I'm like, okay, how much of it is my personal bias and how much of it is reality, right? So, and then am I running away from this resistance, or am I trying to pause? What is my action plan, right? So again, my message here is pause to recognize the feelings and harness these feelings to fuel your response. If you do not have time, ask for time, but do not respond in haste, right? Because it might be less than ideal. It may not be well thought out, right? Um, you can ask for time. It can be 30 seconds. It can be 2 weeks or, okay, sprints are usually 2 weeks, so maybe less than that, but yeah, use your judgment, right? Um, I wanted to know, Anju, if you're okay, what type of resistance have you seen typically while working with your teams? Or Meenakshi, maybe I could put you on the spot.
Yeah, put me on the spot. Go ahead. So ask me that question again. What kind of resistance I have seen?
Yeah, typically.
So, well, I have seen one of the most common that I hear across the board, and I personally have experienced, and I thought it was just me, is backlog refinement.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are like, we are too busy. We don't want to do this. Are you kidding me? We have, blah, blah, blah. We have to finish all this in the sprint, and you want us to meet twice during the sprint? So that's, one of the very common examples I've experienced.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Meenakshi. And I have seen that resistance from both the sides, from the leadership as well, and the team as well, because the team says that we don't have time, we have to deliver our commitments and stuff. Leadership says, do we want the whole team to be spending that amount of time? Can't we get it done by just few folks and all? So yeah, that's a classic example.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot, right? So this is the William Bridges map of emotions around change. This is the individual change cycle. I would invite you to read more about this. You can just Google it, and again, I can share this deck with the organizers. It depicts how emotional the entire process of contemplating and transitioning to change can be, right? You can see the drop in productivity when emotional states that show up on the when something is ending, or and it starts to rise when something new, some new information emerges that helps you adapt to that change. And such emotions, people can feel this at many levels. And I think where I have experienced this more is like, typically when there is a reorg, and it's like, okay, there is a lot of there is angst. Then there is, once the reorg becomes clear, that you come to know that there is a reorg, then the reorg gets announced, then you're adjusting to the new org structure, and then slowly you're back to this. Or at least that's been my own personal experience. Have I, at times I have been in the neutral zone, at times I have been in this zone, and come back to, I've found my space. But typically reorgs is where I have experienced this. But when you are working with teams, and you are trying to introduce a change, find out where your teams are with that change, right? And probably look at what actions you can take in order to take them through that, make that change smooth for them, and then they're in this zone rather than the other zone, right? So you can use this as a wonderful tool. It's very simple. Find out when you introduce a topic of change, where exactly do you find your team members, or yourself for that matter, right? Okay, so next thing is, again, I would like the audience to chime in here via chat. What powerful questions can you ask to understand the basis of resistance being faced? Can any of the audience share what powerful questions do you typically ask your teams? You know, what I typically ask my teams is like, what's your ideal, right? Or what's at risk? What are the options? What are the impediments to get to that state? Or what would be helpful? Or, you know, if that's something that's in my control, I'm like, how can I help? Right? So like I mentioned earlier, resistance is often based on valid viewpoints, and it has important grains of truth that should be heard. So creating that space for your team members to feel heard is extremely important as a coach, as a Scrum Master. And even though resistance to change should not, and it doesn't, and it should not dictate what you do as a change agent, the reasons behind it have to be taken into account to make that change stick. Otherwise, it'll be like they do it for a week to appease someone, and then you're back to your old ways of doing. And that's not that's not a way to build trust with your teams, right? And you know that when you have a team that you can trust, magic can happen. Let me see if there's anything in the chat. What need would not be met? What would be helpful? Thank you. How do you gather data, right? How do you gather data or exhibit curiosity with your teams, right? Some ways that sometimes simple ways for gathering data is like courteous curiosity, right? Hey, or genuine curiosity. Can you please help me? Can you please educate me? I don't understand this. Be authentic. Express your lack of knowledge on certain things, right? You can observe when I join any team. If I am new to the team and the team is already in place, I go back and look at their previous sprint metrics. What do their burn down charts look like? How many stories have been rolled over to other sprints? I just look at data. It's my observation, right? I look at past retrospective notes to see what's going on. How many improvements were identified? Were any of those improvements actually implemented? So I observe the stand-ups, I observe the ceremonies. I also look at all the data that's available for me via tools. Sometimes I do surveys, quick show of hands, dot voting, affinity mapping. These are all ways of how I exhibit curiosity or how I gather data. And this step is crucial because it is important for you to understand where the team is and where you are, and meet the team at a place where they are, and then take them forward and take yourself forward with that team. You're a part of that team, right? It's also important to put yourself in their shoes, right? What are they going through, or what is that person going through? What's the situation? What is his or her goal? What are they resisting, and why are they resisting? These are all questions you can ask to understand the other person's perspective. And again, as a coach, you all know, some of you are coaches here. fight back the urge to state your perspective. It is about the other person. It is about your coachee or your team member, right? How can you invite a view into the future? It is so easy to be stuck in the present. That image which I showed earlier too, it's like, you're so comfortable with the status quo, that having a round wheel instead of a square wheel is going to get you to your destination faster. However, you're too busy, or you're probably comfortable, and you think that's how things work. I am just going to figure out my own way to continue this way. This is status quo. I like it, right? So invite a view into the future. And for those of you who are scaled agilists here, you if you have done that postcard from the future exercise with your teams on building a vision for your products, right? Building product vision. It's a very effective exercise, and try that if you haven't already. Bring up success stories from your other teams or other experiences, or not with an intent to compare, but with an intent to provide an additional perspective, right? So these are all tools available. State your concerns too, because that's where you exhibit authenticity, right? Without you putting your own needs at the table, the other person may not even realize your position. So, and then there might be something new that emerges which can reduce the resistance, and you're on your onward path to making that change effective, right? So empathy is important, but two-way empathy leads you to the future faster, in my opinion. Agree on an objective, that when objectives are aligned, everybody's on the same page, right? In simple words, get on the same page. That's basically you're agreeing on your objective. It means that the agreements are a means of getting to the end, right? State your objectives. Ask the resisting party to state their objectives. Identify the differences, discuss them, find your common goal. Agree on the challenges. Now, when you're agreeing on the challenges, there is a shared understanding of the challenges, and there is a shared ownership on solving for those challenges, right? So if that dialogue doesn't happen, it is hard to embrace that resistance. We are all human beings, right? And once you have that shared agreement, it's a win-win, and you can continue to build on it. One step towards implementing the change effectively. And again, for those of you who are scaled agilists here or Scrum Masters, you might have seen the Kotter's 8-step change model. I'm not going to go through this a whole lot, because there's a lot of literature which is much more well articulated out there on the internet. So I would recommend that you explore this further, about creating the climate for change, engaging and enabling the organization. And that organization could even be within your small little world within your Scrum team, and implementing and sustaining for change. Have to make the change stick. Otherwise, it's very easy to make a change and then go back to your old behavior. So making it stick is extremely important. And to make it stick, you have to embrace the resistance. Now, this is my most favorite topic, and this is something that I am working on improving my own skill at. So reading the room, right? Reading the room is extremely important to be able to see in what shapes and forms the resistance is emerging. So are you having hippos in the room, the highest person's opinion? Because there is always a courteous compliance towards that person in the room, right? So are you seeing people making moves, and are you seeing others in the team having a courteous compliance towards the person who's made the move? And are you seeing others follow, right? Are you seeing opposes? Are you seeing people who are challenging the status quo, or are you just seeing neutral bystanders who are like, okay, I'll just go with the flow, right? So these are some stuck patterns in team communication, which you can explore. There is some beautiful literature around uh, stuck patterns in team communication. I would again invite you to read it. I will provide this resource link to the Loudon LAN organizers so that they can share it with their audience. But this is a very effective tool in structural dynamics on reading team communications and identifying patterns of communications to see who are the informal influencers, right? Or who are the people who are those alpha people in the room, or the loudest duck, or whatever you want to name them, hippos, otherwise highest paid person's opinion. um, you know, this is one model that can help you in identifying those patterns. And once you identify, okay, you've identified the pattern, great, what next? Okay, what questions can you ask so that you can make it about the outcome and not about the people who are making those moves or opposes or challenging the status quo, right? So this is something else that you can observe patterns of communication within the team in order to find the root cause of the resistance and take your team through that journey of making long-lasting change. And then you co-create your experiments, you iterate, because we like to fail fast. So you iterate, if you're at this point with your teams, you have identified your own biases, you have identified the goals, you have hopefully established trust, you are able to identify the communication patterns within your team, and then you're at a stage where you are able to have a good dialogue, or you're able to create a space for your team members to be heard, because change happens when team members have an opportunity to be heard. So, and that's when you start creating incremental magic. So how to embrace resistance in the workplace, right? Understand the basis of resistance, ask powerful questions, identify the informal leaders, get their buy-in, explore patterns of communication, like I mentioned, who is making the move, who are the followers, or is anybody opposing? You're taking a stance, simple stance. Okay, daily stand-ups are at 10:15. We are going to change it to 10 a.m. So you've made a move now, right? You took a stance. You've made a move. So it's as simple as that, right? You might be wondering, okay, all I wanted was to move the meeting by 15 minutes ahead, or even 15 minutes later. Okay, daily stand-ups, instead of 10:15, we are going to have it at 10:30. Okay, later, not even earlier. And just try this with your team, and you will see the moves and opposes and see what you learn. I would invite you to do this experiment for yourselves. Make a move and see what you find out, right? And see how you are able to embrace the resistance. Check how you are reacting to the resistance, and check what action you took to embrace it. All right. And then exhibit curiosity. We talked about it. Invite a view into the future and learn from your challenges, because you have to work on yourself in order to be an effective change agent. It is important to keep your biases in check. It is important to identify how you react to different situations. So learn from your challenges. So now that pretty much brings me to the end of my presentation. I see a lot of things in the chat. However, I would like to ask the audience, what would they do differently when faced with resistance? Toby, did you get anything out of this presentation?
Absolutely. There's so much to learn from you. And sometimes we know some things, and it's always good to hear that other people are also going through similar challenges. And it's good to hear perspectives. And that's why I love these meetups, because you get to network and see how other people are solving the same problems that you're having. That's the magic of these meetups. And I definitely enjoyed your presentation, and I would like to invite everybody to be part of the LAN family. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Are there any questions that I can answer, or any comments from the audience on what they would do differently when faced with resistance?
So, folks, you will have to type your message in the chat window.
These are the sources. Again, I'll share all of this. And yeah, all the images that I used in my presentation are copyright free. It's from Pexels, and I have Toby to thank for this resource. So
I love free stuff.
pretty wonderful images, I must say.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
So I'm seeing a couple of messages in the chat window.
Mm-hmm.
Julie has written, remember to breathe. Resistance is the first step. That resistance is the first step.
How very tense. Thank you. Remember to breathe. Yes.
Cressy has mentioned empathize. Shelley has written, I never thought to embrace the resistance. This just may change my feeling of frustration to joy. Thank you so much, Padma. Beautiful message.
Thank you.
Read.
Go create your incremental magic.
Padma, I have a thought to share, if you would.
Go for it. I was just going to tell Shelley that go create your incremental magic. Go ahead.
Your presentation and the beautiful talk that you had kind of made me think about a few scenarios that happened in my life, right? Mm-hmm. And I, reflecting back into my career, and I feel that as a mid-level manager or a mid-level lead, like, okay, in the waterfall days, at least their title was manager, and you mentioned you were a project manager before you became a Scrum Master, right? Where you are a servant leader. What I faced was when you are in that kind of middle level, where you're not calling the shots, you're not creating the strategy, you're helping to kind of shine the light on the strategy and help the teams see the big picture and help them to deliver as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So it all sounds very, very beautiful, but in real life, you actually face resistance both from leadership and management, mm-hmm. and from the people that you're helping to lead as a servant leader. So it's a very difficult situation to be when you're between a rock and a hard place, and yet you are expected to lead by example, right? It's almost like everybody's pelting stones at you, and you're walking with a stride and a smile, right? Because mm-hmm. you're supposed to lead with it. So my message, or at least what I feel that I did, and I think I did okay, was to be human and share with people that, yeah, this is change. It happens. This is common. Here's where we are going. We will have hurdles on the way, but if we're all working on it together, we can overcome them. So sometimes, as a leader, we tend to paint pretty rosy pictures when we know it's not the truth. And reflecting on so many all hands meetings that I went to, actually all the all hands meeting I went to in any company is always a rosy picture being painted. Oh, we are doing so much better than last year at the same quarter, blah blah blah. But a lot of times, they're painting fake clouds where there's no rain is going to come from them. So I feel as Agilists, we also have to be realists and share with the team that it is not going to be an easy road, but if we work together, we can get through that. And I think that's one beautiful way of embracing change, where you're saying that, I'm making myself vulnerable, and I'm ready to fall down. And I know we can stand up and pick up the journey once again. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. And that what resonates for me, based on what you said, is that authenticity, right?
Absolutely.
Authenticity for me is the cornerstone of building trust. And you know, especially ever since I have explored the structural dynamics, and honestly, I am practicing my craft at this. It's very easy to be caught up in the moment, but ever since I have discovered this this method of looking at meetings and seeing who's making a move, who are the followers, what's being opposed, why, and then getting to the why, right? It has made me read the Zoom or read the room better, and then base my follow-up questions on that. And because change is hard, and resistance is an easy reaction. And so, yeah, as agile coaches, asking the right questions to create that space for dialogue. Because for me, I personally believe that change happens when people are given an opportunity to be heard, right? So that communication needs to happen. Otherwise, the validity of the change is very easily questionable. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But I'd welcome all of you to you know, explore this model about structural dynamics and stuck patterns in team communications.
Yep, we are 1 minute over, and beautiful message. We'll end with this. So I don't know if you guys read, but Google did a research and figured out psychological safety is the main ingredient which made the team the best performing team. So we all are having the same conversation, like the psychological safety, the trust, the authenticity, all those ingredients definitely set the path to success. So thank you so much, Padma, for great.
Thank you.